Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Since Terence Crawford and Canelo are going to be fighting very soon, everyone wants to know Crawford, if he's going to have the power, Canelo, if he's going to have the speed. There's only so many videos you can do trying to break down and analyze what Canelo has to do to win, what Crawford has to do to win. But one thing that no one's talking about, so I figured I would take time to talk about it, is at least for Canelo and his diet. Now, of course, there's always going to be jokes about Canelo eating the goddamn Mexican beef. Viva Mexico Carbohydrates. But the reality is, Canelo isn't really focused on eating any damn steak. Sometimes when you're talking about fights, talking about game plans, I think the diet is overlooked. But it's very crucial when it comes to the fight game. And for a guy like Canelo, it's not just any diet, but the one that's fueling the face of boxing. Now, Canelo's getting ready for Terence Crawford. We know that Canelo's got the skills, he's got the experience, he's got the power. But in boxing, you don't just fight with your fist. You fight with your fuel, your gas tank. And trust me, if your diet's wrong, that gas tank will run out real quick. And next thing you know, Canelo Alvarez will be in big trouble. A lot of us already feel that he's going to be in trouble with Terence Crawford if they try to go gas tank for gas tank. But we know he and Crawford are training in altitudes that's only going to benefit them from being able to go a hard 12 rounds. I know the young boys probably said pause and shit, but I ain't got time for them games. But I just think we need to really take a look at what's on Canelo's plate, how he's going to keep his power, how he's going to keep or increase his speed, and do this without, coming in the fight too heavy. I think also we need to understand the role his Mexican heritage plays into all of his meals and how that protein plan, might match up against Terence Crawford's speed, and really understanding how carbs can play into all this. So when you think about Canelo, right, and you think about Terence Crawford, you think about two fighters who have discipline. Some would say Crawford's more disciplined. Look, I don't know if I want to say that because Canelo fighting like 3 times a year and shit at minimum too. He stays busy and he's been like that for a long time. So it takes discipline to stay active the way Canelo has. But when it comes to food, look, don't think Canelo is out here eating pizza and ice cream every night. Nah, man, he if this was like gas, it would be premium fuel. I think of Canelo, the way he's been able to fight since turning pro at 15 and just fight at a very high level for all these years. His body, in my opinion, although it does have some wear and tear, it's still like a high-performance sports car. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if you guys are familiar with different sport cars, but, for me, in particular, I like the Ferrari. But you're not going to put an 87 octane gas in that shit, you know what I'm saying? You're going to put the premium stuff in it. And that's what Canelo does. For this training camp in particular, he's eating the salmon, eating chicken breasts. And he is eating beef, but it's grass-fed beef. So we shouldn't have any issues with him with no damn clenbuterol or whatever that was. So he is making this an enjoyable experience because there are some things you can eat that can slow you down, and there's some things that you can eat that can give you a little more pep in your step. So when you see a guy like Canelo, who seems to be happy with making weight and happy about the idea of fighting Terence Crawford, that's because he's out here, man, eating vegetables. He's using olive oil instead of vegetable oil and the other shit. And also avocado. Now, I don't know how many of you guys have worked out, bodybuild, even cut weight before, or tried to maintain your weight or whatever. That's what you need, man. vegetables, lean meats, and the avocado, that's good fat. That's the kind of fat you need. Keeps your brain sharp and it keeps your punches heavy. And what I'm telling you is not a joke. Like, this is serious stuff. So to see that Canelo and his team have really said, you know what, for this fight in particular with Terence Crawford, we're going to do what we have to do to come in the ring and impose our strength, impose our power, but we want to impose speed, and we want to also have fast feet. So when you see that he's out here, man, eating the grilled meats and getting the fresh herbs and sauteed vegetables, that tells me that Canelo's taking the fight serious. And when it comes to hydration, look, don't underestimate Canelo and think he's out here killing himself to make weight and putting on sauna suits and going into, these hot baths and these saunas. He's not doing that, man. You know what I'm saying? What I will tell you is, between sparring, mitt work, and road work, he's out there in that hot Mexican climate. He is sweating buckets and buckets of fluid from his body. He's not out there reaching for soda. He's drinking water with the electrolytes, maybe with coconut water. But the goal is every drop of sweat that's lost gets replaced. He can't afford to have cramping in a fight with Crawford. If the cramping starts in training camp, the cramping's probably going to show up on fight night. So again, when they're looking at Canelo, and he's training very hard for Terence Crawford, they're making sure that they don't miss a step. He's not going to run the risk of being dehydrated, and definitely not going to run the risk of developing any kind of cramping in the ring with Crawford. Some may say, well, what do you mean cramping? Well, look at Pacquiao. Pacquiao always had cramping in his legs. I still don't know what the hell is causing all the cramping from Pacquiao, but maybe it's because he runs those damn hills. That could be something that contributed to the cramping for Manny Pacquiao. But what I'll say is, a lot of the casual fans, they don't want to talk about the diet. They don't want to talk about those things. I mean, I'll sit there and tell you. I remember I was getting ready for a fight. I was 21, 22. Yeah, I was 22. And I cut down, it was like 200 pounds. I cut down to 160. And I was just running in the morning and running and training and then running in the afternoon. So I was running twice. But I was eating rice cakes and tuna fish sandwiches and cucumber and just steamed broccoli at night. And let me tell you, that weight just came off me. But that was me, more of a kind of inexperienced guy. And but it was the workouts. Losing weight isn't complicated. If you want to lose weight, they just burn off more than what you take in, and you'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? Because the diet isn't just about what you eat; it's about what you don't eat. So you watch a guy like Adrian Broner out there eating fried food, fast food, getting drunk, eating candy. You wonder why a guy like Adrian Broner's career just fizzled out the way he did. He didn't live the lifestyle. Canelo and Crawford lived the lifestyle, and Canelo in particular, he's not messing with his blood sugar spikes during camp. So he's maintaining that discipline because he knows getting in there with a guy like Terence Crawford, it doesn't matter that Crawford's supposed to be the small man. Canelo is making sure that when it comes to his diet that he's not leaving any stone unturned. And this is where it's going to get a little bit tricky for a guy like Canelo. It's like during fight week. You can't show up drained. You know what I'm saying? You got to be like right on the weight. Most guys like to weigh in. If the fight contracted at 168, they like to weigh in at 168. But it's a delicate balance because you can end up coming in heavy. You know what I'm saying? But this shit, that's why you see some guys, paying to have a nutritionist come on board, because people don't understand it. When you miss weight, that's money out of your pocket, or the whole fight's canceled. Either way it goes, your pocket takes a blow. And as far as your credibility as a fighter for being disciplined, that shit takes a blow. So I think a guy like Canelo and a lot of other fighters, I think they walk a very tight rope. But only the ones with discipline are going to make that weight, man. You got to be a professional. And Canelo's making sure he does everything that he has to come in on weight, Now, what he's going to balloon up to, I'm not really sure. But what I do know is I think his metabolism is working overtime because he's keeping the portions small, but the meals frequent. Think egg whites with spinach for breakfast, grilled chicken with asparagus midday, maybe a small sweet potato for energy. So he's still getting protein to keep the muscles fed, but he's cutting sodium down so he doesn't carry unnecessary water weight. And to me, that's just brilliant. For Crawford, I had to do some research on Crawford, like I've done for Canelo, and then do a video about Crawford and what his diet may look like. But the bottom line for Canelo, by the time weigh-in day hits, you may see him looking, a little bit dry because he's, cutting out so much water, the sodium and stuff. But that's just the water cut. But within 24 hours, boom, you're gonna see him rehydrated, muscles full, and he's gonna look like a tank, ready to roll through, Bud Crawford. That rehydration meal is critical. That's why I'm gonna do a video about Crawford. Those rehydration meals, you see these guys eating pasta and all kind of shit. For Canelo, it sounds like he may be eating rice, chicken. He could have pasta. But that's the glycogen reload. That's what these guys need. And that's where that fight night power comes from. You got to be able to load your body back up with the proper nutrients. So when Canelo comes in the ring, he has all the power that he would normally have. But it's a balance. It's a tiered approach, and you got to have the right people on your team and to know how to navigate that. But what's interesting is Canelo, although he's dieting and he's coming down to cut weight and to make 168, then he rehydrates back. He still keeps like the traditional, Mexican foods in his diet. Beans, corn, chili peppers, avocado. So I think it's interesting because some people wouldn't believe that some of that shit shows up on Canelo's plate. He's not sitting there boiling chicken and broccoli for 10 weeks like some fighters and how an inexperienced hood champion was doing back when he was 22. The beans are for fiber and protein, man. Corn tortillas, not the store-bought processed kind, but fresh ones that don't spike your blood sugar as bad. The chili peppers for metabolism kick, and avocados. So I swear, man, me just listening to all that shit, if I ate as much avocado as Canelo, I'd probably be unstoppable too. I'm down 22 pounds from the last 3 weeks, and I'm planning to drop another 30. So me doing the research on this stuff, it just gives me motivation to stick to my shit and continue to be disciplined. If these guys can do it, we can do it too, right? But here's the thing. Eating foods from your culture, like for me, curry goat, curry chicken, pela, rice. We eat a lot of shit, Caribbean culture. There's a lot of good nutrition, but some of that stuff is it's not bad for you, but it's not conducive to cutting weight. But seasoning your food and making sure it tastes good is a must. I can't eat unseasoned food. But when it comes to Canelo, man, it isn't simply about nutrition, He's got to be comfortable. You got to enjoy it, man. If you got to sit there and just eat all this bland shit, you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to end up cheating. So Canelo wants to be comfortable, man, with the food he's eating. It sounds like he wants to feel like he's at home. So when you're grinding through a brutal camp, like a guy like Canelo, those flavored meals can remind you, of why you fighting in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So it comes back to the psychology and the mental edge, because that matters. If you think that's soft, how about you try fighting 12 rounds without your head in the game? So you hear guys talk about they hated the training camp, they hated the weight cut, they hated the food they had to eat. I remember Miguel Cotto was sitting there one day complaining on the video that he was just the cutting weight and what he was able to eat and not eat and watching other people eat, and he wasn't happy. But I'm gonna tell you can still have the proper flavor in your food and drop weight, but everybody's going to probably have a different philosophy on that. But the one thing that I think all fighters try to ensure they take in a good amount is protein, man. Protein is king when it comes to cutting weight, and as far as preserving your muscle or helping to build muscle, protein is the basic building block of muscle, man. And I think he's a king for a puncher like Canelo. Every time he throws those power shots, like in sparring, those little muscle fibers tear. And protein is the glue that puts them back together stronger. So when you really sit back and think about these guys and their diets, and that's why having a nutrition is important, they're always tearing something. They're always getting injured. And some guys get hurt so bad in training camp they can't fight. Other guys say they got a little injury here, injury there, but they're okay. And a lot of that has to do with the diet. Canelo is a guy who understands this. He gets tears. He has issues with muscle fibers. But, because of his diet, he's able to repair that. And Canelo's not just getting his protein at dinner. He's spreading his protein intake out across all those meals, breakfast, lunch, snacks, dinner. So what that does is that keeps a steady stream of amino acid flowing through his system. So his body's always repairing and building. So when he gets into with Crawford, yeah, Canelo's been fighting as a pro since he's been 15. But when you really understand the strategy for his diet, everything with Canelo is all about making sure that he's in the best condition to get in the ring and just, walk fighters down, break them down, impose his will, and have his way. And look, man, I wish I could bring somebody on to talk about nutrition, but I'm telling you, it makes a difference. It does make a difference. So anyway, him going up against a guy like Crawford's going to try to outmove him, try to outquick him. Canelo's game, I'm pretty sure, I've done so many videos, but he's going to have to stay strong from round 1 to round 12. That's why the diet's important. And for him to stay strong from round 1 to round 12, it's the protein what's going to let him do that. The strong legs, Canelo built like a spark plug, man. People say he can't cut off the ring. Yeah, he just made a choice not to chase school around. Canelo can cut the ring off. But he's going to need those strong legs to cut the ring off, strong arms to make Crawford feel every punch, and that strong core, especially early in the fight, to take them counters from Crawford, because Crawford's going to swing, he's going to land, he'll probably have some success. And then the carbs are just like fight fans, you know what I'm saying? You need the right amount at the right time, or things go bad real quick. So you can't just come and eliminate carbs entirely from your diet. You got to understand, man, with them heavy sparring days, believe me, Canelo's loading up with carbs. Could be oatmeal in the morning, rice at lunch, sweet potato before training. That's fuel for those high-intensity bursts, which is what he's going to need. You can't just go in there being full of protein. You're going to need those carbs. Now, on lighter days, definitely fewer carbs, more protein and vegetables. But come fight week, we all know when they're trying to get those last few pounds off, the carbs drop. And the night before the fight, boom, carb load. That's where all the power is going to come from. And that's where you feel the muscles like balloons with glycogen. And that's why Canelo comes in looking the way he always looks, super strong, super explosive. So the bottom line with Canelo and his diet, yeah, people are going to have jokes about him and the beef and all that shit. But when you see Canelo in that ring with Crawford, just remember, man, it's not about the left hook. It's not about the uppercut. It's not just about his defense and the power shots. You got to understand what's fueling that Mexican beast. It's the right diet. And the diet definitely is not probably a entertaining thing to talk about. I think you got to be a diehard boxing fan like myself to find an interest in it and to talk and do a video about it. But it's definitely not flashy like talking about knockouts and strategies and shit. But the diet is the foundation. Okay, so without a proper diet and nutrients, these fighters won't even make it into the ring. And if Crawford thinks he's just facing Canelo as a fighter, he got another thing coming. He's facing Canelo, who's doing everything he can to make sure he's a well-oiled machine that can perform when he gets in there with Crawford. So whether you're a fan of Bud or Canelo, one thing's for sure, the fight's going to be fueled by discipline. And let me tell you, that all starts with the plate of food that those boys are eating. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. Canelo ain't playing around. And I'm going to do some research on Crawford to see exactly what kind of what he's doing to bulk up, how he's eating, about sparring. Same way we broke down Canelo. We're going to break down Terence Crawford because that shit is interesting too. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans. All 7 continents. I'm in the breeze.